On this episode, we can rebuild you. We can make you stronger. Welcome to Save Every Universe. My name is Alec Garcia. I am an egomaniacal henchman and a key programmer behind the dangerous satellite superweapon. I am invincible till I get frozen by liquid nitrogen.
Nice. That took me, when you were talking, I was like, I don't know what this is, but I got it. Yeah. My name is Robbie. I'm a young man raised in a village, but whose destiny is intertwined with a princess that will rise up to overthrow the mad gods and return the powers of fate to mankind. I don't think you'll know this one.
No?
No, I don't think you've played this game.
Is it an obscure RPG thing?
That's not obscure. There are some circles.
It's just an RPG.
Yeah.
Okay.
My influences are mostly
all
German.
RPGs are,
you wouldn't have heard of them. It's a German JRPG. I'm just kidding. No, it's a common game on. You know what? I'll tell you next week.
Okay. All JRPGs are exotic and obscure to me.
Some wild foreign game.
Who were you last week? Did you say that
last
already?
week I was Logan Keller from Rainbow Six Vegas.
Nice, that's a good one. And last week I was Henry from Firewatch.
Yeah.
And today we are talking about New Year, New You. It's still January. We can do this. I saw basically where this started was I saw an ad for I didn't click it. I don't even know what it was, but it was an ad for some sort of gaming related thing that said if you fixed your posture the way that you're sitting, you could quadruple your KD or something like that. I was like, that's a really ridiculous
Up your KD
claim.
with this one weird trick.
Yeah, and I ignored it, and then exactly, and I ignored it, and then I went about my day. But I kept thinking about it, and I was like, oh, okay, that might be true because I've watched some TED Talks and stuff. They did one where they brought somebody up on stage and they had him answer some questions, and he was clearly nervous in front of all these people, and then he said, okay, now sit up straight and breathe. And now answer these questions, and they could actually show that there's better brain activity and all these things. If you breathe deeply, that's associated with posture, that's associated with better brain function, that kind of thing. So I started thinking about it, and I was like, that might actually be an interesting topic of what are things that you can do to be a better gamer, other than just dumping hours into something and drinking a lot of Red Bull or whatever. Because that seems to be what the perception is, that if you put in enough hours and you have enough good twitch reflexes, that's it. And certainly there is a case for that, and there is some truth to that, but there's what other things are out there that make you a better gamer?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I definitely have always found I tend to just wear t-shirts and stuff, but when I have a presentation or something, I put on a suit and tie. I feel like I'm taller because I'm carrying myself better. My posture improves. I feel more confident. I act almost like a different person when I'm in a suit or whatever.
Yeah,
so.
and the TED Talk thing, I can't remember the lady's name, but I think it's sort of just a known thing, in the business world at least, that if you power pose, that if you stand up really straight and you put your hands on your hips, if you think of Superman standing, in the distance all high and mighty with his chest out and stuff, that it actually increases your testosterone and leads to other benefits, confidence. So one of the sources I found is actually 1-hp.org, which is a health site for gamers. Really strange. I had no idea this was out there, but he talks about CSGO players that swear by sitting up straight and paying attention to their breathing as they're playing and stuff like that. It increases their confidence. It increases their focus. And
have you ever done that?
I don't know if I've ever consciously done it. I meant to try it tonight, but I was slouched in a beanbag for the whole time.
So I've actually experienced this where I would be playing something and I'd been really trying to get good kill, let's say Iron Banner or something, something more competitive than normal. Yeah. And I'll be having a bad run and I'll almost take a step back and be how am I sitting? Yeah. I'll change my chair, change my armrest, sit up straight, slow my breathing and try and do kind of a focus, get myself together, increase blood flow. Now I haven't really thought too superstitiously, but just as a general, well, look at me, I'm hunched over like a goblin. Of course I'm doing this poorly. So I've definitely had that. Yeah. And sometimes it's successful, but even when I find I'm not successful, I actually feel better. Right. I tend to relax better. I don't feel like my shoulders are cramping or whatever.
Part of it's better oxygen and better blood flow to the brain and stuff. You're going to play better. But part of it is just a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're going to sit you're there to win, you're probably going to do better. And that was actually one of the first things I had in my notes is the attitude thing, how to be a better gamer. Everybody who's gamed has been in so many matches. And I tend to think in terms of first person shooters, competitive PvP stuff, but where you're playing with a friend or something like that and they're just bitching the entire time about how this is so cheap and the team is stacked and the spawns are bad and on and on and on, but I'm having a great round. And so it can't be stacked. It can't be that just the spawns are bad. And a lot of time it's that person brought a bad attitude into the game. Sure. And it's causing them to play poorly. Whereas, if you asked them, they would say, no, I have a bad attitude because I'm having a bad round. And it's usually the opposite is true.
Yeah, that's true. Did you see I got a Bruce Lee quote in my notes? So I was thinking about that, and I wrote down, as you think, so shall you become, which is like a famous Bruce Lee quote. But Bruce Lee was all about, in Jeet Kune Do, his martial art that he kind of created, about your mindset,
right?
And how like mental limitations and bad attitude are what hinder you more than your physical abilities. Yeah. So it seemed relevant.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that, and
I don't think he was a gamer though. But if he was, he would have been positive.
But anything competitive where you're like going up against somebody or you're in a situation, like it's same rules apply, I think.
Yeah, I think so. There's I think there's a surprising amount of parallels. And Alec and I used to play racquetball against each other. And there was like always, we had this huge like mental game. Yeah. We were always trying to psych the other one out, and then we were on the same team. We had like a whole ritual an hour before like the other opponents we were going to play. Like, it was we took it very seriously.
No one else did, but we did.
Yeah. But we won a lot. Like a lot of the doubles people we'd go up against, we destroyed them, and they were like, "Whoa, you guys take this seriously." And we're like, "That's right, that's what we do." But there was a lot of like mental game, how we could improve that.
Well, and I think the other part about it is like you'll play better. But even if, say, spawns are bad or something needs to actually be adjusted in the game, something actually is a little bit broken or a little bit cheap in the game, that doesn't mean you have to lose, right? Like it just means you have to adjust your play style. And if you come into it with confidence and sit up straight and breathe and like do these other things, you're going to think better. And if you pay attention to the map, the way things flow, there's usually like choke points, and after a couple minutes, the game usually settles into like these patterns. And if you're thinking and you're not being a jackass and just whining about it, like you can usually pick out what the patterns of the map are and what the other players are doing, and you can find a way to like flank around or do these other things. But I think a lot of games I've played with don't take the time to like take a breath and think about like, okay, how do I make this a great match and win, even though the odds are stacked against me?
Well, and I think I find, I don't mean to sound too like corny here, but at times, even if my team's losing and I know I'm not going to win this match, if I flank around the other guy and get a triple kill, that's a pretty big win. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or if you see that you're getting in the enemy's head, even if your team is losing, you're winning. Like you're kicking their ass.
Well, you can't always win every single round, but you can always improve upon your own performance, and I think that's where you should focus. If your team is losing, you can still have a great round personally, and you can still contribute to your team the best you can.
And it can be frustrating, but like I find when I'm playing, I take a lot of consolation when it's like, well, I got top score. Yeah, my team lost, and I tried. Yeah, but like at least I know I played well and I kicked ass. Yeah, I'm not personally trying to like scout for a professional team, so I'm not like, well, now I'm not going to make that whatever. I'm not.
Yeah, I guess we should. Like, we're not like pro or anything.
Yeah,
like
we're
that,
not professional gamers.
But like if you like to game, like it feels good to know you're getting better at something. It feels good to like have better rounds and grow.
Yeah, maybe we should address that real quick. So like, first of all, like what are your goals? Is it to have fun? Is it to be better? Is it to actually be a professional gamer? Right. There was a time when that I would have laughed at that, but like I'm surprised how many people, like younger people in their like late teens and early 20s, and I'm like, oh, do you like
that's
gaming?
A real goal.
They're actually like, I'm gonna be pro. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, you're serious? Yeah. And I don't mean to like make light of it. It's just that was when I was 18. We were gonna be like movie stars or rock stars, not because we didn't like gaming, but because that wasn't a real thing.
Yeah, MLG was like not. I don't know if it was around or like if it wasn't around enough for us to like really.
Yeah, there were tournaments now and then. But it wasn't like sponsor things were rare. Yeah. It was more like you could win prize money in tournaments, but there weren't like
massive sponsorships and stadiums of people and live streams and all that stuff. Yeah.
And we can talk more about that later, but just in that idea, this is a little bit different from like, we can't tell you how to be a professional gamer because we're not professional gamers. But I do think a lot of this would apply.
I mean, like the posture and the breathing and the being present. One of the things, one of my favorite YouTubers who does a lot of Battlefield 1 stuff is The Broken Machine. And one of the things he says is that spatial awareness, like being aware of what's happening on the map, is always better than like being the fastest or being like having the best response time. If you can predict where people are going, you don't need to be like super twitchy and super responsive. That's true. You can just wait for it, line up the kill, and take the shot.
Yeah, personally, I think that's true. I mean, how many times when I rush in, I'm like, match is on, let's go. Yeah. I almost always get gunned down. Yeah. But if I kind of wait, hang back, take a second to be like, where are they going? Where should I be? How can I almost always do better.
Right.
Now, sometimes that's because my jackass teammates are cannon fodder and I use them as bait. And sometimes that's because I just took the time to be aware. That can be advantageous either way, you know?
Yeah. So let's move out of the, because that's all sort of like attitude head game.
Yeah.
Like it's not really about like playing the game. Did you have anything on actually like how to improve skill or things that you had that were specific that you have done to actually improve at a specific game?
Well, for shooters, like in general, like I hugely subscribe to the spatial awareness thing.
Yeah.
Everyone tends to run down the middle of the aisle or they walk the same path, and you'll know because you'll see a guy sniping in the back and he always picks you off same point every time.
Yeah.
If you die twice to that, you should never die to that again. Like maybe twice you realize I did this twice. Don't ever die more than twice to that because you need
usually, with me anyway, like I'll
differently.
get hit and I'm like, okay, that was a good shot. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to take this guy on because there's like a certain amount of like bruised ego that you want. And then, and then after I get killed again, I'm like, okay, I need to flank. I need to do something else. I need to get around this guy.
I think anybody who's played a shooter game at least has done that. I can take this guy. I'm faster than him. I'm going to pop around that corner one more time. This time win.
Is the impulse that gets you killed a lot more than not. Yeah.
You probably shouldn't even die twice to it, but definitely don't die more than that because that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
You know, I think in any games that have like a class-based, this isn't just a shooter. This could be in like WoW or anything, but anything that's a class-based competitive thing.
Yeah.
Even if you have a class that you really like, you need to learn all of them.
Right.
You need to understand like what your class is weak
It's like
against.
a know thy enemy kind of thing because it's like even if that's not your primary that you're using or whatever, next time you come up against it, you know what bag of tricks they're working with.
Sure. So like in Overwatch or Battlefield or any of those games, you need to know. I would play the other classes, even if you don't love them. Play some rounds on them just so you see, oh, this is what that guy kept killing me with. Or this is how he kept doing that. And you'll learn like some of the weaknesses and flaws in it that maybe it'll take some of the wind out of that sail. If you're like, I could never beat that class. I can never beat one of those.
Well, and with Battlefield, so since 3, 4, and then 1, like I made myself with each class, even though there were classes I did not like or I was bad with, I made myself get to a certain level with each class, and it made me a way better player overall.
Even in games like World of Warcraft, when I was doing arenas like competitively and stuff, I would fire up other characters, kind of learn the spell book. I would look stuff up online if I really didn't want to play that, and I would just read through the tooltips and be like, okay, when a priest casts this, that does this, and like learn how I was dying and what I was losing to, so I could learn the weaknesses and strengths of every strategy. I mean, you don't have to do that if you're just having fun, but if you really want to become like one of the better players in that game, it does take kind of a research. You have to research it like you would any other problem, any other field, and become kind of somewhat of a master of the knowledge of the game. Yeah,
and that does seem to be like a very consistent thing. People who are really good at specific games tend to like go deep on one game. Seems to be a very consistent thing. People who are like really good at Battlefield aren't necessarily really good at Call of Duty, as an example. But another thing too is in addition to that is watching tutorials. I guess I didn't really know these existed because I had never sought them out until like the last 12 or 18 months. There's Let's Plays where you can watch them and you're like, oh man, they're really good. But they're doing stuff that's like really hard to pin down a lot of time and discern all the stuff that's going on. But so many of these YouTubers now have really good tutorials of like, here's 5 things you can do to be better at whatever game it is that you're interested in. There's very specific things that you can practice and adapt into your gameplay, and it will immediately impact your score at the end of each round.
Yeah, when you were watching those Broken Machine videos,
he's got some
even I learned
some
stuff about.
And actually, those things apply to anything. I watched those and I was playing a lot of Battlefield. But then when I came back over to Destiny PvP or whatever else, I actually had a friend. I was playing with a friend when on the Destiny 2 beta, I think, just like wrecking house because I've been playing so much Battlefield 1 and I've been watching all of Broken Machine's tutorials and like practicing all the stuff that he talks about. And when I played Destiny 2 beta, I hadn't played with this guy in a while, and he said, holy shit, did you get like way better at PvP? And I was like, yeah, I did. But I don't say that to brag, but I'm just saying, like, if you watch what these people are doing and you pay attention to do these things, pre-aim at corners that where people are likely to appear, that's a huge one. Like, you don't think about where your cursor is unless you're aiming down sight a lot of time with shooters specifically, but you should always be aware of where you're looking. The point from I'm running to now I'm aiming and shooting is just so much shorter and cleaner if you're paying attention to, where you're looking in the first place. That seems so small, but once you're aware of it, almost nobody does it.
Right, and that makes sense, right? I mean, things like spatial awareness, movement patterns, where you're looking, those translate at least to a lot of shooter games.
Yeah.
And depending on what competitive type of game you're doing, it can go past that. Just being aware of the battlefield.
I think that works with anything, though. I mean, like, I've done that with, like, kind of after I became aware of some of those things, like, it applied to, like, chess, even.
Yep.
Like, I play regularly with my cousin. We've played we've spent a little while. We need to do that again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, how you think about where people are most likely to move and that kind of thing helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And some games, like, learning the meta, and what is possible in the game. Some of those games are a lot deeper down the rabbit hole than others. Games like League of Legends and like
learning maps is like alone is like there's a topic. There's a whole topic there.
Right, and I had problems playing like Battlefield 3 and 4 because of that. Because I felt like I came in too late, didn't know the maps, and it just wasn't fun. But that can be more involved depending on the game. Even Mario Kart, I don't know if you knew this, but like super in-depth meta, like weight versus acceleration.
I've never looked into it, but you've told me that a couple of times.
When it's kind of weird because if you're just playing casually, it's just fun. But if you hear somebody talk about, I didn't know we were going like heavy acceleration, slide, whatever. It sounds like they're speaking a different language. Yeah. And I know I'd mentioned like the Smash Brothers.
Yeah, as I was about to say, Smash Brothers too.
Like I didn't even know how to talk to some of those kids. And they're like, oh, that's clearly a 5-frame move. I was like, what the fuck? What's a 5-frame move? Yeah. Like we never talked that way. Yeah. There's a lot. It's deep, you know, and some communities are very devoted to like hashing this out, understanding the algorithms and the science. Yeah. So depending on how good you want to get, you can go pretty far down.
I mean, you can deep dive into the game you want to be good at and find what the boundaries are, find what the possibilities are, and get down into the nitty gritty. I mean, like there's people who like fire every single gun on Battlefield to like test the bullet drop and like all kinds of ridiculous stuff.
Drop off. Yeah. And I've actually gone and looked up videos like that in games like Destiny because it's a game I'm more passionate about. Right. I've never done that in like Battlefield 2 or whatever, Battlefront 2, or Battlefield 1. But it's because I don't care as much. I just kind of jump on, shoot people or whatever. Right. But in Destiny, I'll watch the like, the breakdown statistically firing rate. I'm like, oh, interesting. I should switch. I've been using the wrong rocket launcher this whole time. This is fascinating. I'll really get into those videos.
Don't be afraid to nerd out on,
I mean, if you want to be good, you kind of have to understand the math and science.
And it is rewarding though to like nerd out on something and then go into a PvP match and immediately see your KD go up. Or or to play if it's, like Destiny or whatever, where you're playing cooperatively with people and to like have contributed better and to suck less, to not be a drag on the team or whatever your goal is.
Yeah, when we were, my group was trying to clear the raid layer in Destiny 2, we were having trouble like doing enough damage. Yeah. Watched some videos and I was actually like, I gotta try this. Yeah. We went and tried it and melted the guy, and it was so satisfying to be like, oh, look at the damage. We're just pouring it out. Like it was really satisfying to like do the math, mess with your loadouts and abilities. And that's something else I would say. Like sometimes the internet will say something is popular and you try it and it sucks. That's okay. Like maybe it just doesn't work well for you. Yeah. Don't be afraid to like change it up or go against the grain and try and find something that works
Being
for you.
Contrarian, if everyone's playing one way, sometimes that's like a really good time to like try different things, because there are some guns in games or whatever where they're like, oh, you can't be good with that, that's impossible. And then it's only a matter of time, like a month or two later, people are like, oh, they did something incredible with that gun that everyone thought sucked. Right. So
I remember I was in the early days of WoW, I was talking to a guy. He was one of the early Frost mages, which now is like a joke. I don't know where it's at now, but for a while they were the kings of PvP. But before that, they were laughable. Nobody played that. And I talked to this guy who was very proud. Like I didn't even know him that well, and he was like, "I'm one of the first." Like he couldn't wait to tell me. Yeah. It was like, "Do you know what WoW is?"
He did it.
I'm the first Frost
cool.
mage. Yeah. I'm the one who started this tactic. But I mean, he's very proud of that. Yeah. I don't know how true it is, but he was very proud of that. And it can be really satisfying to kick an enemy team's ass with a spec or loadout or ability
that's quote
or
bad.
Team or whatever. Fighter, whatever it is that is bad and no one does that. I mean, it's a great feeling.
I mean, everything that's even stuff that's like, quote, overpowered has a weakness. And if you can figure out how to exploit that, even if it's with something bad, it's super satisfying to knock someone on their ass who thinks they have like the perfect loadout.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we have any more professional FPS tips?
The last one I would say, and I noticed this back when I was playing Medal of Honor, which went horribly south really, really quickly. But actually, when it first came out, I really enjoyed that game. And it was before I'd gotten into Battlefield and then I noticed this later in Battlefield 3, is like I've always kind of made content like we're doing now, podcast. I've done a lot of blogging, that kind of thing. And I was playing with starting a blogging site or whatever, like a WordPress site or something back in the day. And so I wrote like a sort of a test article. And so I wrote this thing on like how to improve at, first person shooters. It never went anywhere. I never published it. I never started the site. Yeah. But I noticed that just writing out, like, here's the 3 things, like I noticed one time, like I did something different. I played it in a different way and I was like, whoa, like that went way better than I normally play. And I tried to articulate and dissect and define what it was that I did differently and why it worked. And so this is like kind of an abstract one, but I think even doing stuff like this, podcasting or whatever, where you're trying to articulate your ideas around gaming instead of just sitting down and mindlessly playing, it actually makes you a better player. It makes you a better gamer, I think, because the stuff that you're not consciously aware and you have no reason to be consciously aware of most of the time, when you try to pin it down and try to define it, brings it into your conscious mind, and then you begin to play differently. So that's a little bit abstract, but that is one I would throw in there, that if you're at all inclined to make content, to make YouTube videos or start a podcast or write a blog or write an article or whatever, even if it never sees the light of day, it will help you in knowing what will make you better.
That's a good point. That's an interesting point. I never thought of it. I do find, though, like myself debating it if I'm like with friends or enthusiasts.
Yeah.
And I find some similar benefits to that, since I'm like, well, I never thought about that, but as I think about it and process it, it'll even make me go home and try like new strategies.
And I think that's a big one. Just discussing and learning from each other is a big deal. It helps you grow as a gamer, and it helps you see things, exposes you to play styles you would have never personally considered. The last thing I wanted to say on this is there's so much speculation out there about like hardware, about like raised thumbsticks or like having a wired controller versus a wireless controller. And all of it kind of seems like bullshit a little bit.
You think?
I mean, there's probably some, like the low lag TVs, like minimizing input lag and that kind of thing. There probably is, if you're like at a professional level, there's definitely probably something to that, getting the absolute best fine-tuned.
There's 100% maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I was like looking through forums and stuff like that, and I could not find a consensus on wired versus wireless.
I remember when we were younger, it was definitely like wireless was bullshit. It sucked. But now it's standard.
Mostly just a pain in the ass to charge the batteries more than anything.
Well,
that's the difference.
All the wireless stuff was third party back. Now it's like Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, they're putting it out.
Yeah.
I remember the first wireless controller, the Wavebird on GameCube.
Oh yeah.
That was really good.
Yeah.
It was better. Like I remember being like, what the fuck? This is amazing. It was the first wireless controller I used that I was actually like, this is a much better controller. It's still heralded as like
but then it was more of a convenience thing of not having the cord. That more than it was like better response time for a fighting game
the
or something
Wavebird.
Like
it was perfect, dude. It was so good. And if you check this out, like research it, you will find a lot of fanboys that totally agree.
About the Wavebird?
The Wavebird specifically. It was made by Nintendo. It was first party, and it was fantastic. It was really fucking expensive, as I recall, when it first came out. But it was really good.
Interesting.
And then after that, I actually felt like first parties started doing better and making default, like the 360 had, and I don't remember it being an issue with the 360. So no,
those were always good. It was just always a pain to have AA batteries on hand or to charge it.
And now since I played a desk, like a computer desk, the wireless is like more of a pain in the ass. I'm like, oh, I gotta plug it in.
Yeah.
If it was just wired, I would actually be happier.
Yeah.
That's an exception. Most people who play on like entertainment center TV setups, it is really nice. So I call bullshit now on the lag difference between.
I mean, I don't know if it's unless you're like a pro, like really like a true professional, like it probably none of that stuff has enough of an impact to worry about as an enthusiast.
I mean, people I've played with that use like modified controllers and stuff.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I use a whatever tactical third.
I think there's probably a psychological benefit to some of it. I used the raised thumbsticks for a little bit when I was starting out. I was like, oh, this changes the game. Yeah. Like, and it did help me. Like, I think it was totally psychological, but it helped me like get into sniping on Battlefield, and then I got rid of them and moved on.
Yeah, every time I hear somebody, I like always kind of quietly look at their KD, and I'm like, I'm not impressed. I did better than you, and I'm just using I've held like I haven't really gotten to play much with the Xbox like $130 Master Elite controller.
They do look nice.
I mean, I got to play with it in a Microsoft store.
Yeah.
And I was actually like, this might actually like, it was so comfortable and so perfect the way everything was weighted. That maybe there is something to that. But again, how much is it really going to change?
Okay, if you gave Tiger Woods though, like, or whatever good golfer, that's the only golfer I know.
Why would you go with a golf? analogy.
When my father-in-law was a professional golfer. I think that's like my go-to.
But you weren't.
If you were a professional baseball player,
do you know any baseball player names?
No.
I guess we'll stick.
If you were Barry Watson,
you just go Michael Jordan.
If you were Michael Jordan, and if you gave him bad shoes, whatever, he would still whoop your ass. Getting a new controller is sort of like the nice shoes. It's good to have, but it's not going to necessarily.
I don't know if I definitely dumped too much money into racquetball. When we were taking it very seriously, I would be like, look at that set of shoes or that racket or whatever. And there were times when my racket needed to be restrung or whatever.
Yeah.
But in general, it was all mental.
Yeah.
Like, this thing, look at the fire on the side of it. It's got to be good.
And so like the hardware side of this conversation, I feel like we're back where we started. Is if it gives you that little feeling of confidence to come in and like, I'm going to dominate, I'm going to win, go for it.
And
I guess.
We were very confident.
Yeah.
We had sweet headbands. Dude, why haven't we
post
ever...
a picture on the Facebook group.
Yeah, why haven't we ever put on our headbands while playing Iron Banner or something?
Or while podcasting. It would be the best podcast ever.
It'd be too much. I think the hardware could take it. But that is true. I think if it brings you confidence and you're into it, that's cool.
That is a big... Thinking clearly and having confidence is a massive, massive part of being a good gamer.
Yeah. In fact, maybe the most important thing is like your head game. So maybe we should end there. That's a good full circle. It's all up in your head mostly.
Mostly.
Practice though.
But mostly.
But mostly in your head.
Thank you for listening to Save Every Universe. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. We have a couple of states. We've spread across the United States, but we do have a couple of states. Idaho, for example. If you have a friend in Idaho, send them our podcast and make them listen to it.
And if you have any questions or topic ideas or something you want to reach out to us, please hit us up at saveeveryuniverse@gmail.com. I just want to take a second also to give a shout out to Rory. We got an email from him, ran into him at Comic-Con here in Albuquerque this last weekend. He's a new listener to the podcast. We got a photo. My family, we were there dressed up as Obi-Wan Kenobi and Captain Marvel and stuff. So we do check our email. He sent us a great photo, and thanks for listening and sharing with us. If anybody else wants to reach out to us, we'll be happy to respond. And thanks for listening.
And really, Rory, if you know anyone in Idaho, it's like a black hole void of who's listened to our podcast, and there's no one in Idaho. If you know anybody in Idaho, if you know someone who knows someone in Idaho, I mean, just, send them our way.